Good afternoon, Cynthia.
Hey, good afternoon, Allison.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure.
Let's start with Jutel. How would you describe Jutel's taste?
Oh, that is a fair question. Really depends. It's a personal take on this, so I'm going to go with my gut here. The way I would describe the Jutel taste is, you know, when you're coming back home after a day playing outside and you go for hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that like smooth feeling you got in your mouth, and then the sweetness of it. That's how I would describe Jutel, but with a fruit flavor instead of the chocolate.
For people who don't know of that taste, but would like to know a little bit about the history of Jutel, when was it originally available, and why did it disappear from the market?
So the exact year that it was made available, I don't know, to be honest with you, because as a kid, I remember being home, and then the milk delivery guy would stop by and would offer Jutel and some little Joe Louis from the Vachon homemade pastries. But I would say it's probably around 1978 or 1979 that was first made available. And the reason why it actually did stop is easy enough. The company that actually put it on the market was Agrinov. That was a milk co-op from Bellechasse, sort of Quebec City. And then they went bankrupt. So they got acquired by, I think it was Groupe Lactel at the time, and they just discontinued that product.
And around what year was that?
I would think it would be around 93 or 1994.
Mm-hmm. What made you believe then that in 2024, 2025, there was still a demand for Jutel?
You know, that's, I think the circumstances where the actual city where the plant is located at, it's St. Clair and Bellechasse, actually were celebrating their 200th anniversary. And then Kerry, the company that actually acquired the plant, was celebrating their 20th anniversary into that city. So all of this coming together in 2024 was just a great timing to put this back on the market, because people around the place are still asking about it.
And then, as you mentioned, Kerry, you work as a plant manager for Kerry, and Kerry has the head office in Ireland. So you decided to head on over to Ireland and convince the head office to bring it back. How did you do that?
Well, first, I have on site a super cool and creative R&D team. So we actually worked on developing the recipe to match it to what to closely match it to what it was back in the 90s. And then from there, look up what a cost that we could incur or risk-based analysis at the site. And then I went on to a distributor, which is next door to where we are, also located in the same city, and talked to them about it, because remember, we are a manufacturing facility, so we don't really have the distribution network. Mm-hmm. So I went to them and asked if they would be willing to consider buying it from us once that product was made and cleared for quality, and then distribute it, like literally sell it. And they said yes. So from there, I actually went to my boss, explained the whole deal, explained the celebration around the city, the hype that it would create for Kerry to be known. And that was the first step. And then from there, it's just been a few meetings, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of decks presenting it. And then I got given the green light.
I'm thinking that must have been a huge challenge, because you're trying to convince people about a taste that is through and through nostalgic to you and to people in that specific region. What was the biggest challenge there for you to convince them, or was it just a conversation around numbers?
I want to say that it's been, yes, a lot of conversation around numbers. But describing what it meant for the people around the place. So Kerry's pretty big around diversity and inclusion, and how can we be out there in the market and help populations around where we're set for different plants. So I really took that angle once the number portion work was covered.
You said something there that caught my attention earlier on. You said almost the same recipe. What's different about the recipe today that was not the case in the 90s, for example, or the 70s when it first hit the market?
Yeah, so believe it or not, for those who actually tasted it, like the production that was just made, even though you still have the same like sweetness to the drink, there's a lot less sugar content into this recipe than it was back in the 90s. So Kerry being a food ingredient manufacturer, so we were able to leverage some of their technology to be able to reduce the amount of sugar into the package, but give it that same sweet taste.
And what about the milk aspect? Because as you mentioned before, that was originally a product that was distributed through the milkman in the late 70s. And it was part of a line of products commercialized through Agrinov, which was a milk-producing cooperative. So where's the milk in that now?
Yeah, so actually, funny enough, until late 2023, we still had at the site a few milk products that we were producing. So we still have all the capabilities there now that even though we've switched more around like plant-based beverages, but we are buying some already skim milk from Lactalis in Quebec City.
So milk still is included in Jutel. I mean, that's got to sound it must sound weird to a lot of people right now. But let's just talk about this for a second, because that's what makes it so unique, right? So it's a fruit juice, a very sweet fruit juice, as you mentioned, but there's a milk aspect to it. How does this work?
So actually, you probably have to think about it the other way around.
Okay.
Is that your base is actually your milk, and then you want to flavor your milk.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I've been thinking this wrong. So it's
I don't think there's a wrong way of thinking about it, but the best way to describe it is that, let's say you pour yourself a glass of milk, and then you add actually fruit concentrates and fruit flavor into it to give it that fruit taste.
Earlier on in our conversation, Cynthia, you had some very specific emotional memories, and I think what are personal memories that described Jutel and what it brought back for you. Have you heard any similar stories from others who remember Jutel from their childhood? Because you did highlight the fact that you wanted the community to recognize that representation through the product.
Yeah, it's been to be honest, I know it's not like country-wise and stuff because it was more of a local product to the Quebec City area, but the reaction of folks drinking it for the first time nowadays has just been amazing. So that created quite a buzz on the social media where you actually see people, drinking it for the first time on camera live, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is bringing me back like 40 years ago. So the actual mouthfeel and the taste are so exactly the same as they were back then that literally you think you're back to your like 5, 7, 8-year-old time.
Wow. So you said something about the fact that it is a little bit more aligned with the more modern consumer expectation, because I'll be very honest with you, that product goes completely against the current food trends and how consumers are trying to eat less food. And I mean, there's even a straw in there, and so many products are not even allowed to go to market with a straw anymore, but yours does. How much of a challenge is that for you to keep in mind that is not a very healthy product that you're putting out there?
No, I mean, I totally agree. And then when we talked about it before, you and I, right, this is something I do recognize. But on the other hand, I'm all about, I think that's a challenge with a lot of different subjects in the current world we're in, is like we tend to go like, super healthy options, and we sometimes discard stuff that we've known or kind of made us feel good along the way. We just need to find that balance. I don't think that drinking a one portion of a 200 ml fruit flavor milk is going to derail your entire nutrition. However, how would I explain this? Trying to make the point of it's good to be aware, knowing what you want to be, being aware of the products out there that are good and not so good for you, but you also have to have pleasure. You need to have that little thing that's going to keep you, life is good, life is bright, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So having that little portion there is really kind of our mission. And in regards to your comments on the straw, we are actually going to switch it over to a carton straw next year. So
well, there you go.
We are aware we need to get into that trend there as well, but we still have to have a little fun.
Okay, so you're already talking about next year. So the feedback is good. The numbers are there for Kerry to continue with Jutel.
Yeah, back in the days, there were actually 4 flavors. We only pushed out on the market 2 last year, which were orange and grape. And we are actually developing the abricot. And that was the next flavor on the list. I don't think we're going to push it to the strawberry flavor just yet, but hoping to, develop and continue growing that business.
Cynthia, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and explain the whole history and nostalgic feeling behind a sip of Jutel.
Thank you very much.